I'll never forget that night. The night I realized the woman I loved had turned our marriage into a lie. It started with something small. It always does. My wife, Emily, said she was going to her sister's house. Just a girls' night, she said, tossing her hair like she always did when she didn't want questions. She wore perfume she hadn't touched in months, that soft vanilla scent that used to make me weak. But she didn't hug me before she left. That's what did it. Emily always hugged me goodbye. I watched through the front window as she backed out of the driveway. The taillights of the silver Honda I'd bought her glowing like two red lights disappearing into the dark. That car. I'd worked overtime for months to buy it. A surprise gift for our 10th anniversary. She'd cried when she saw it. Told me I was too good to her. I believed it then. I was a fool. Something in my gut told me not to let it go. Maybe it was the way she said, "Don't wait up," or the fact that she'd put on lipstick for a night with her sister, who didn't even own a mirror big enough for mascara. Whatever it was, I walked into my office, opened my laptop, and pulled up the GPS tracking app that came with the car. At first, I told myself it was stupid, that I was being paranoid. But then the little blue dot on the map started moving, and it wasn't heading toward her sister's place. It was going downtown. I sat there, staring at that screen, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The dot stopped in front of a hotel, the Greenview Inn. I blinked, thinking maybe the app glitched. But the car didn't move. 5 minutes. 10. 30. That's when the cold truth hit me. I wasn't imagining this. My wife was meeting someone. I felt something inside me break, not like glass shattering, but like an old rope snapping under too much weight. Years of trust, laughter, vacations, all of it cut loose in a single digital pinpoint on a map. I opened the remote control menu. The system had a feature for safety disables, meant for thefts or emergencies. You could remotely cut the ignition, lock the engine. I'd never used it before. But right then, the temptation was burning in my hands. Not yet, I thought. I needed proof. I wanted to see just how far she'd go. So I waited. Watched that blue dot stay put. Then, about an hour later, it moved, slowly this time, out of the hotel parking lot. I followed it from my screen until it stopped again, near a small restaurant across town. I grabbed my keys. I didn't even think. I just drove. The rain had started by then, light but steady, tapping against my windshield like a countdown. When I pulled into the street near the restaurant, my chest was tight enough to hurt. And there it was, the silver Honda, parked in the corner under a flickering light. I sat in my truck, engine idling, staring. I told myself maybe she was meeting a friend. Maybe I was wrong. Then the door opened. Emily stepped out. Her laugh cut through the rain. That bright, familiar laugh I used to love. But the man who followed her out wasn't her sister. He was tall, wearing a blue shirt, and he put his hand on the small of her back like he'd done it 100 times before. That's when my hand went cold around the steering wheel. She wasn't just seeing someone. She was comfortable, practiced. And me? I was done being the fool who bought her car so she could drive it to another man. That night, I decided something. I wasn't going to confront her with words. I was going to let her own lies trap her. I pulled out my phone, opened the GPS app again, and smiled, just barely. If she wanted to ride off into the night with him, she could. But she wouldn't get far. I sat there in the dark, watching them from my truck, rain streaking across the windshield like the world was trying to wash the scene away from me. Emily stood under the restaurant's awning, close enough to that guy that their shoulders brushed when they laughed. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't sneaking around like someone ashamed. No, she looked alive, glowing. It hit me then. Maybe she hadn't looked at me like that in years. He leaned in to whisper something, and she laughed again, tilting her head back like he'd just said the funniest thing she'd ever heard. Then, without hesitation, she reached for his hand. Just like that, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I gripped my steering wheel so hard my knuckles cracked. Every part of me screamed to storm over there, to yell, to drag the truth out of her right in front of him. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the part of me that had already accepted that I'd lost her. Instead, I stayed in my truck and waited. After about 40 minutes, they walked back to her car. He opened the door for her, a gentlemanly move, I'll give him that, then leaned in through the open window and kissed her. Long, too long. My stomach turned, but my hand was already reaching for my phone. She started the car. The headlights flashed on. They idled for a moment, still talking. Then she pulled away from the curb. I watched them drive off, her car leading, his black pickup following right behind. That was my moment. I opened the GPS control panel again, scrolled to the bottom where it said remote engine disable. My heart was hammering, not from revenge, not yet, but from something colder. Control. After months of feeling like everything in my marriage was slipping through my fingers, suddenly, I held all the power again. When I tapped confirm, the system asked for a reason. I typed one word: theft. And just like that, her car was on a timer. Once she stopped and tried to restart it, it wouldn't turn back on. I didn't plan to strand her somewhere dangerous, just enough to rattle her, enough to remind her that the man she thought she was smarter than wasn't so blind after all. I followed at a distance, far enough she wouldn't notice. They drove toward the outskirts of town. That's when it clicked. The little back road near Miller's Ridge. Secluded. No cameras. I'd fixed lights out there once. It was quiet. Perfect for cheaters who thought the world didn't see them. Her car pulled over under a cluster of oak trees. Headlights off. His truck parked right behind hers. My pulse roared in my ears. I parked about a quarter-mile up the road, engine off, watching from the darkness. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Rain turned heavier, drumming against my windshield. I couldn't see much through the blur, but I could make out two silhouettes moving, one in the driver's seat, one leaning across it. That was enough. I hit the final button, disable now. The confirmation light turned green. Her engine was dead. It took less than a minute for the panic to start. Headlights flickered. The car door opened, and I could hear her faint voice even through the rain. What's wrong? It won't start. He got out, looked around, tried something under the hood. No luck. Then his voice, frustrated, battery's fine. Maybe your engine's shot. My wife, the woman who'd lied to my face, pulled out her phone, stepping into the rain with her little pink coat and perfect hair now plastered to her cheeks. I saw her talking, pacing, waving her hands. Then she did something that almost made me laugh. She called me. I let it ring once. Twice. I answered on the third. Hey, honey, I said, calm as ice. Jake, she breathed, trembling. The car, it just died on me. I don't know what happened. Oh no, I said. Where are you? Silence. A long one. Then a stutter. Near the west side. Visiting. Katie. I smiled to myself. Funny, I said softly. Katie lives east. Her breath hitched. That's when the man's voice cut in behind her. Tell him you're fine, babe. And right there, in the rain, with my wife's lover standing beside her car, everything I'd felt, love, anger, grief, fused into something sharp and unbreakable. She wanted a thrill? She got one. I ended the call and whispered to myself, you can call him for a ride, sweetheart, but you're calling me for the tow. When I hung up, I sat there in the dark truck, rain pounding the roof. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from what I'd just done. I'd crossed a line, the kind of line you can't ever step back over. Through the rain, I watched them. Emily pacing, him leaning on his truck like this was just another inconvenience. I couldn't hear them, but her movements said enough. Panic, shame, confusion. He looked bored. She called again a few minutes later. I let it ring until the last second. Jake, please, she said, her voice shaking. The car died. Can you come? Yeah, I answered flatly. I'll call a tow. Be there soon. You don't have to. I insist, I said, and hung up. When I pulled up behind them, my headlights cut through the downpour like a spotlight. Emily froze. The man turned toward me, brows tight, protective. I rolled down my window. Car trouble. Her voice was small. Jake. I didn't expect. Yeah, I said, stepping out. The rain soaked through my jacket instantly, but I didn't care. That seems to be a theme tonight. The man raised his hands a little. We were just trying to get it started, man. Relax, I said. Tow truck's on the way. He shot Emily a look, and she couldn't even meet his eyes. I leaned against my truck, arms crossed, rain dripping off my sleeves. So, visiting your sister? She blinked, hesitated. That's funny, I said. Katie lives east. Silence. The man took a half step forward. Look, you don't owe him. She does, I cut in. That's my wife. And that's the car I bought her. He froze. Whatever confidence he'd had melted into awkward guilt. Emily's chin quivered, and she whispered, Jake, it's not what you think. It never is, I said quietly. Headlights appeared down the road. Tow truck. Perfect timing. The driver climbed out, tugging his hood up against the rain. Who's the owner? She is, I said. Car won't start. Emily just stood there as he hooked up the cables. The chains clanked against the metal like a judge's gavel. When the driver asked where to take it, I gave him our home address. She winced. You can ride with your friend, I told her. Or with me. Either way, the car's going home. Her voice cracked. Jake, please, can we just talk? Oh, we'll talk, I said. Just not here. The tow truck pulled away, hauling her car, our car, through the rain. She looked so small standing there, watching her little secret disappear into the night. The guy stepped closer, but she stopped him with a shake of her head. I'll come with you, she said. Good, I replied, opening my truck door. Leave your boyfriend to figure out his own ride. She slid into the passenger seat, drenched, hands twisting in her lap. Jake, I can explain. I started the engine. Yeah, I said, staring straight ahead as the wipers swept back and forth. You're gonna try? The drive home was quiet, too quiet. Thunder rolled across the sky, lightning flashing her reflection in the window. She looked like someone I didn't know anymore. Love doesn't die all at once. It rots slow, layer by layer. But that night, I buried it for good. The drive home felt endless. Every few seconds, lightning flashed across the road, lighting Emily's face. Pale, trembling, eyes darting toward me, but never landing. The wipers squeaked with every pass, marking the silence between us like a metronome of tension. When I turned into our driveway, the rain had eased to a drizzle. The tow truck was already there, her silver Honda sitting like a corpse on the flatbed. The driver waved, waiting for instructions. Just drop it in front of the garage, I said. Emily's door opened before the truck even stopped. She rushed to the porch like she couldn't get inside fast enough, like she wanted the walls to protect her from me. Inside, the house smelled like the candle she'd left burning earlier, lavender and lies. She stood near the kitchen table, arms wrapped around herself, water dripping from her hair onto the floor. Jake, she started softly, I know what you think you saw, but... I slammed my keys on the counter. The sound made her flinch. Don't insult me, I said. You were with him, Emily. I watched him kiss you. Tears welled up instantly. It wasn't. I didn't plan for that to happen. Didn't plan it. I snapped. So what? He just accidentally ended up in your car? She covered her face. Jake, please, I was lonely. You've been so distant lately. Always working, always tired. I laughed, low and sharp. I was working for us, Emily. For that car, that house, that life you couldn't wait to ruin. She stepped closer. It wasn't about ruining anything. I didn't mean to fall for him. That sentence hit harder than I expected. Fall for him, I repeated slowly. So it's not just cheating, it's love now. She hesitated, then whispered, I don't know what it is. It just happened. The honesty stung worse than any lie. I turned away, hands gripping the edge of the sink. You used my car to sneak around with him. Do you even realize how stupid that is? Her voice cracked. I wasn't thinking. I swear I didn't know you'd find out. I let out a humorless laugh. Of course you didn't. You thought I was too busy to notice, didn't you? Thought you were clever. I never wanted to hurt you, she said. He listened. He made me feel seen. I spun back toward her. And what do you think I've been doing all these years? You think I didn't see you? I was the one who built everything around you, Emily. And you sold it out for a few cheap compliments. She started crying harder. It's not like that. It's exactly like that, I said, stepping closer until we were face to face. You took the car I gave you, the one you cried over, and drove it to another man. Then you called me to save you when it broke down. Her sobs turned to quiet shaking. Jake, I made a mistake. Please, don't end this. Don't throw everything away. I stared at her, searching for some trace of the woman I used to know, but all I saw was someone who'd already left me long before tonight. I'm not throwing anything away, I said softly. You already did. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The only sound was the rain tapping against the window. Finally, she whispered, what are you going to do? I picked up my phone and scrolled to the towing company's receipt, forwarding it to her number. You'll pay for that tow, I said, since you were the one who took the car out. She looked at me, confused. That's what you care about? The tow? No, I said, my voice low. I care about the fact that you made me look like a fool. The tow's just a reminder. Her shoulders slumped. She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. You should go upstairs, I said quietly. Tomorrow, you can figure out where you're staying next. Her breath caught. You're serious? I'm done being the backup plan, Emily. She turned toward the stairs, crying silently. I watched her go, each step creaking under the weight of everything we'd built and broken. When the bedroom door closed upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table alone, staring at the empty chair across from me. Love doesn't vanish in a flash. It dies in the slow, heavy quiet afterward, when you realize the person you'd do anything for wouldn't have done the same for you. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the kitchen table, staring at the wet footprints she'd left on the tile. The candle had burned itself out hours ago, leaving behind that faint trace of lavender, the same scent she'd worn to another man's car. By morning, the storm had passed. The air outside was clean, bright, too peaceful for what was left of us. I heard her come downstairs just after sunrise. She moved quietly, like she was afraid of waking something dangerous. She had on one of my old sweatshirts, sleeves pulled over her hands like a child trying to hide. "Jake," she whispered, "can we talk?" I didn't look up from my coffee. "Go ahead." "I didn't sleep," she said. "I kept thinking about last night. About what I've done." Her voice cracked. I don't even recognize myself anymore. I let her talk. She filled the silence with apologies, promises, tears. She said she'd end it, block him, do anything to earn back my trust. "Why now?" I asked quietly. "Because you got caught." She flinched, but didn't deny it. "I know you hate me, but I love you, Jake. I always have." I finally met her eyes. "You love me," I said. "You loved me enough to lie to my face, to kiss someone else in the car I paid for, and still call me when it all fell apart? That's not love, Emily. That's convenience." Her lip trembled. "Then what do you want me to do? Tell me how to fix it." "Fix it?" I laughed bitterly. "You can't unring a bell. You can't unsee what I saw." She stepped closer. "Please, Jake. I'll do counseling. I'll quit my job. Whatever it takes." I studied her face, the red eyes, the guilt, the desperation. There was a time when those tears would have broken me, but now they just felt like noise. "Counseling's for people who got lost," I said. "You didn't get lost, Emily. You walked away." Her voice fell to a whisper. "If I walk out that door, you'll never see me again." I shrugged. Maybe that's the point. For a second, I thought she might scream, but she didn't. Instead, she reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, and placed it on the counter between us. "I blocked him," she said. "Right now? I swear. You can check." I glanced down at the screen. A man's name, Chris, sat in the contact list, grayed out with a little crossed circle beside it. It should have felt like victory. It didn't. "Good for you," I said. "Now block your pride too. Maybe that'll save your next marriage." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I deserve that. I know I do. But please, Jake, can we start over?" I didn't answer. I just stared at her, the woman I'd built a life around, now a stranger begging for scraps of forgiveness. Finally, I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and said, "You want to start over? Start by paying the tow bill. Then start packing." She gasped. "You're throwing me out?" "I'm setting you free," I said. "Isn't that what you wanted?" Her hand shot out, catching my sleeve. "Jake, please, don't do this. I'll prove it to you." I pulled away gently. "You already did, Emily. You proved exactly who you are." I walked out before she could say another word. The morning sun hit my face, sharp and cold. Across the driveway, her silver Honda sat crooked in front of the garage, dead, just like what we had. For the first time in months, I felt calm. Not happy, not angry, just clear. She'd spent last night calling 2 men for help. One for love, one for rescue. Only one answered. And that's when it hit me. She could have her freedom, but she'd never have her dignity again. I started my truck and drove away, leaving her standing in the doorway. The woman who'd finally realized what she'd lost, just a few hours too late. 3 days passed before she called again. I didn't pick up the first few times. I was busy trying to pretend life still made sense, going to work, eating in silence, sleeping in the empty bed that still smelled faintly of her shampoo. You can tell yourself you're fine, but the quiet always finds you. When she finally showed up at my shop, I knew she wouldn't leave until she said her piece. I was tightening a bolt on an engine when the doorbell chimed. She stepped in, wearing a faded dress and that same timid expression that used to work on me. "Not anymore." "Jake, please," she said. "I just need 5 minutes." I wiped my hands on a rag. "You've already had years. Make it quick." She took a shaky breath. I told him it was over. I told my family too. I told everyone what I did. I looked up then. You told your family you cheated? Her eyes glistened. Yes. My sister, my mom. They were furious. I deserve that. But I wanted you to know I'm not hiding anymore. That part caught me off guard. For a second, I saw a flash of the woman I married. Proud, brave in her own way. But then I remembered the hotel, the restaurant, the way she'd smiled at that man like I never existed. The image burned all the pity out of me. Good, I said flatly. Confession's good for the soul. Doesn't change the facts, though. She stepped closer. I want to fix this, Jake. I'll do anything. I'll even stand in front of everyone if I have to. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady, desperate steady. You really want to make this right? I asked. Yes, she said quickly. Anything. I thought for a moment, then nodded toward the phone on my desk. Fine. There's the company's Facebook page. We've got over 8,000 followers. Post your truth. No filters. No excuses. Then maybe I'll believe you mean it. Her face went pale. You want me to tell everyone? You said anything, I replied. She hesitated, fingers trembling as she picked up the phone. Jake, this could ruin me. Cheating kind of does that, I said quietly. But at least this time, it'll be honest. For a long moment, I thought she'd walk out. But she didn't. She opened the app, typed slowly, and hit post. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Her confession was already spreading. I betrayed my husband, Jake Turner. I lied, I cheated, and he still showed more mercy than I deserved. I'm ashamed, but I needed to say it out loud. I broke a good man's trust. Don't ever take loyalty for granted. There it was. Simple, brutal, true. She set the phone down, tears running freely. I did it, she whispered. I nodded once. Guess you finally told the truth. I don't want pity, she said. I just wanted you to see I'm sorry. I studied her, the trembling hands, the cracked voice, the raw honesty bleeding through. For a moment, something inside me almost softened. Almost. You're sorry, I said. But sorry doesn't rewind time. It doesn't delete GPS logs or tow receipts or the way I saw you smile at him. She nodded slowly. Then what do I do? You live with it, I said, stepping past her toward the door. The same way I have to. When she turned to leave, she paused at the threshold. Jake, what? Do you hate me? I thought about that. No, I said finally. I just don't love you anymore. She flinched like I'd hit her, then nodded and walked out. After she left, I looked at her post again. The comments were flooding in, sympathy, judgment, gossip. It was messy, raw, and exactly what she deserved. For the first time since that night in the rain, I felt something like peace. But peace wasn't the same as closure. That part was still coming. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop. I didn't need to look to know why. Emily's post had gone viral. By sunrise, our little hometown was chewing on the story like fresh meat. Every text I got said the same thing. Is it true? I can't believe she admitted it. You okay, man? I wasn't sure how to answer any of them. Truth was, I didn't know how I felt. Proud. Vindicated? Hollow. Maybe all three. By noon, I finally checked the post again. Thousands of reactions. Hundreds of comments. Strangers fighting in the thread like it was a public trial. Some blamed me, calling me cold for humiliating her. Others praised me for holding her accountable. None of them knew half the story. Then one comment caught my eye. It was from a woman named Alyssa James. You weren't the only one, Jake. She was seeing my husband too. I read it twice. Then again. My heart thudded slow and heavy. The woman had attached a photo, a group shot from some office Christmas party. There was Emily, smiling, drink in hand. Next to her stood a different man. Not Chris, the one from the restaurant, but another guy entirely. His arm was around her waist. I stared at that photo for a long time before calling the number on Alyssa's profile. She picked up after 2 rings. Jake Turner, she said. Her voice was tired, not angry. I'm sorry to dump this on you. I just thought you should know. How long? I asked. Almost 6 months. Maybe more, she said quietly. My husband's name is Matt. He works in accounting at your wife's firm. I found texts after she posted that confession. They've been meeting at hotels during business trips. I felt the blood drain from my face. So she was seeing 2 men. At least, Alyssa said. Maybe more. I'm sorry. When the call ended, I just sat there at my desk, staring at the wall. The first affair had already gutted me. This one felt like being buried in the wreckage. That night, she came by again, knocking softly like she still belonged there. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. She stepped inside, her face pale, makeup gone. Jake, please, don't believe what people are saying online. You have to let me explain. Then explain, I said, arms crossed. How many? She froze. What? How many men, Emily? Tears filled her eyes instantly. Jake, please, it wasn't like that. Don't, I snapped. Don't you dare tell me it wasn't like that. I saw the post. I spoke to his wife. So tell me, how long has this been going on? Her lips trembled. It started before Chris. With Matt. It was stupid. I thought it was just attention, then it turned into something else. I never meant for any of it to happen. I laughed bitterly. You never meant to, huh? Seems like you've had a lot of accidents lately. She stepped closer, crying harder now. Jake, please. I was broken. I didn't feel loved. Every day you were gone, I felt invisible. They just filled the silence. I shook my head slowly. You didn't fill a silence, Emily. You created one. She covered her face. I deserve your anger. Say what you want. Just don't hate me. Hate? I said quietly. No. Hate would mean I still care enough to feel something. Her shoulders slumped. She looked around the house, the pictures, the furniture, the life we built, like she was seeing it all for the last time. I'll sign whatever you need, she whispered. Just don't make this uglier than it already is. You already did that for both of us, I said. She nodded, wiped her eyes, and walked out without another word. I watched from the doorway as she disappeared down the street, her figure fading under the streetlights. The truth had finally surfaced, not in one blow, but piece by piece, each confession cutting deeper than the last. And as much as it hurt, it also brought a strange calm. Because now, at last, there were no more lies left to tell. 2 weeks later, the papers were signed. Simple signatures on simple pages, but they felt heavier than the car that started all of it. Emily didn't even look at me when she slid the final sheet across the lawyer's desk. Her hands shook. Mine didn't. Outside, the afternoon was quiet. That strange calm that comes after a storm finally burns itself out. We stood in the parking lot for a moment, not speaking. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. Is this really it? She asked. This is it, I said. We're done. She nodded, swallowing hard. I know I can't undo what I did. But thank you for not destroying me completely. I stared at her for a second, then gave a small shrug. You did a good enough job of that yourself. She almost smiled, sad and small. You always had that quiet kind of cruelty. You don't yell, you just tell the truth. Guess I had to learn that from you, I said. She wiped her face and started to walk away, but then hesitated. Do you ever think we could have fixed it? If I'd told you the truth before you found out? I looked past her at the road, wide, open, leading anywhere but here. No, I said. You can't fix something that only one person was holding together. That was the last thing I said to her. A few days later, the tow company called. They'd finished the repairs on her Honda. Funny, I thought. That car had more of a second chance than our marriage did. I told them to drop it in front of her apartment. She could deal with the bill. But before I hung up, a strange impulse hit me. I drove out to the lot to see it one last time. The silver paint still gleamed under the sun. They'd replaced the ignition system and cleaned the interior. It looked new again, almost untouched. I sat in the driver's seat for a long while, running my hand along the steering wheel. It was supposed to be a gift, something that said, I trust you, I believe in us. Instead, it became the smoking gun. On the passenger floor, I noticed something wedged under the seat, a folded piece of paper. I pulled it out. It was a note, written in her handwriting. Jake, if you ever find this, I want you to know I did love you. I just stopped loving myself, and everything else fell apart after that. For the first time in weeks, I felt something break loose inside me. Maybe pity. Maybe forgiveness, though not the kind that brings people back, the kind that finally lets you walk away. I folded the note, tucked it into the glove box, and closed it gently. Then I reached for my phone, opened the GPS app, and deleted her car from my account for good. As I stepped out, I looked back at the silver Honda gleaming in the sun, the car that had carried her to another man, then carried the truth back to me. Funny thing about endings, they never come all at once. They come in small, final gestures, like handing back a set of keys, like watching someone drive away for the last time. A week later, I saw her car once more, parked outside a grocery store near her new apartment. She was inside, loading bags, alone. For a moment, she looked up and saw me across the lot. No words, no wave, just a faint nod. The kind people give when they both know something's finished. I nodded back, started my truck, and pulled out first. The sun hit the windshield just right, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was running from anything. The truth had hurt. The silence had healed. And the man who once tracked his wife's car across the city finally realized he didn't need to follow anyone ever again.